Hello, my dear shining stars. How are you all? I hope you all are doing very well. In our today's class, we are going to start our chapter number 3. And the name of this chapter is The Signal Man. Okay? See, my dear student, this chapter is written by Charles Dickens. Okay? Actually, this chapter is based on a horror story, or you can say a thriller story. Okay? See, this chapter is uh, written by Charles Dickens. Okay, an accident was happened in 18th century in England. Okay, so this story is, we can say that, maybe inspired by that incident. Okay, now come with me and let's explore the chapter. Be ready. Communication and understanding can prevent tragic outcomes, and it's crucial to be attentive to the well-being of others, especially in high-stakes situation. Yet, yes, it is very important. Okay, communication and understanding. Okay, these two terms can avoid any kind of circumstances. Okay, these two words can avoid any kind of dangerous situation. Okay, it gives a courage to you to deal with them. Okay. Responsibility and duty should always be carried out with precision and vigilance, even in the face of inexplicable circumstances. My dear students, you always have to know about your responsibilities and duties, because if you are responsible toward your responsibility and duty, then only you can success in your life. In this chapter, you are going to see what is the importance of communication and as well as understanding between people. Okay, and how we can become a responsible person, how we can easily carry on our duty. All these things we are going to see in this chapter. Hello, below there. When he heard a voice thus coming to him, he was standing at the door of his box with a flag in his hand, furled round its short pole. One would have thought, considering the nature of the ground, that he could not have doubted from what quarter the voice came. But instead of looking up to where I stood on the top of the steep cutting nearly over his head, he turned himself about and looked down the line. There was something remarkable in his manner of doing so, though I could not have said for my life what, but I know it was a remarkable enough to attract my notice, even though his figure was foreshortened and shadowed down in the deep trench, and mine was high above him, so steeped in the glow of an angry sunset that I had shaded my eyes with my hand before I saw him at all. Okay, okay, my dear students. So this story starts that a person who is running a train, he saw, first of all, he heard a voice. Okay, he heard a voice that someone is saying that, hello, just look below there. Okay, means here you can see this person heard that someone is calling him or someone is telling him, hello, below here. Okay, so when he saw in that direction from where that voice is coming, he saw, okay, he saw that there is a person. Okay, that there was a person who was standing. Okay, who was standing there. Okay, and his whole appearance is appearing as a short in height. Okay, and he was standing in the trench area. Okay, he was standing in the deep trench area of that railway line. Okay, so my dear student, the narrator of this whole incident is, first of all, here you can see, this is the picturization of the narrator of this story. Okay, he was holding a hand. Okay, he was holding a flag in his hand. If you remember this getup, okay, this getup is specifically owned by the signalmen, okay, who used to give us signals for crossing trains. Okay, you all have done a journey through trains. You all have seen that a person, okay, a person standing at the cabin area, they are holding two colored flags. First of all is red colored and the second one is green color. Okay, so here you can see the narrator of the story has this type of appearance. Okay, and when he was standing at the door of the train, immediately he heard that someone is calling him, hello, you have to look below there. Okay, and When he looked at the direction from which the voice is coming, he saw that a person was standing, but and his appearance is appearing in short in height. Okay, he was saying that, "Hello, below there." From looking down the line, he turned himself about again and raising his eyes, saw my figure high above him. Okay, again, the narrator of the story heard that "hello below." Okay, and when he looked down, he saw that the person who is calling him, he was looking in his direction. "Is there any path by which I can come down and speak to you?" Okay, so the narrator asked, "Okay, can you please tell me the road through which I can come and have a communication with you?" He looked up at me without replying, and I looked down at him without pressuring him too soon with a repetition of my idle question. Okay, so when I asked him, "Can you please tell me the path through which I can communicate with you?" immediately he looked in my direction. Okay, but I'm not going to repeat my question because I think I asked a stupid question to him. Okay, just then there came a vague vibration in the earth and air, quickly changing into a violent pulsation and an oncoming rush that caused me to start back as though it had forced to draw me down. When such vapor as rose to my height from this rapid train had passed me and was skimming away from the landscape, I looked down again and saw him refurling the flag he had shown while the train went by. Okay, so when I was just thinking all this thing in my mind, immediately I felt that the earth, that the surface beneath my feet is shaking. Okay, because a train, okay, because a train is passed. Okay, a train is passing. A train is passing there. Okay, and that person who is calling me that "hello, you have to look below there," he was giving a signal to that passing train. I repeated my inquiry. After a pause, After a pause during which he seemed to regard me with fixed attention, he motioned with his rolled up flag towards a point on my level, so some 200 or 300 yards distant. I called down to him, "All right," and made him to the point, and made for that point. There, by dint of looking closely about me, I found a rough zigzag descending path notched out, which I followed. Okay, so when train passed, again I repeated my question that, "Can you please tell me the road through which I can came and have a communication with you?" Okay, immediately I saw that when the train is crossed, that person put down the flag which he was holding in his hand. Okay, and he was standing nearly 200 or 300 yards. Okay, means the distance between the narrator of the story and that person is only 200 or 300 yards. Okay, now the narrator of the story found that the person is signaling that a path is present through which I have to came. Okay, I have to came in his direction, but that path was not a plain path. Okay, it have a zigzag path. It was made through a clammy stone that became oozier and wetter as I went down. Okay, and that zigzag path was full of stones. Okay, and wet. For these reasons, I found the way long enough to give me time to recall a singular air of reluctance or compulsion with which he had pointed out the path. When I came down low enough upon the zigzag descent to see him again, I saw that he was standing between the rails on the way by which the train had lately passed, in an attitude as if he were waiting for me to appear. Okay, so when I crossed, means the narrator is saying that when I crossed that path, I saw that person was standing in the track of the train like he was waiting for me. He had his left hand on his chin, and that left elbow rested on his right hand crossed over his breast. His attitude was one of such expectation and watchfulness that I stopped a moment wondering at it. Okay, and when I raced near him, or when I raced and stopped in front of him, I saw that he was resting one of his hand at his chin like this, and his another hand was resting on his breast area. Okay, he was showing me such type of attitude that he was waiting for me. Okay, I resumed my downward way and stepping out upon the level of the railroad and drawing nearer to him, saw that he was a dark, Shallow man with a dark beard and rather heavy eyebrows. Okay, so now the narrator of the story is saying that in this paragraph, the narrator of the story is describing about the appearance of that man. Okay, so in his own word, he is saying that that person have a short height, okay, and have a dark beard. His post was his post was his post was in as so literally and dismal a place as I ever saw. On either side, a dripping wet wall of zagged stone, excluding all view but a strip of sky. The perspective one way only a crooked prolongation of this great dangon. The shorter perspective in the other direction, terminating in a gloomy red light. And the gloomier entrance to a black tunnel. In those massive architecture, there was a barbarous, depressing, and forbidding air. My dear student, I hope you all know the Kalka Shimla Mail. Okay, there is a tunnel-shaped railway track which is present in Shimla. It is also called as a haunted place. Okay, so you can correlate this whole description with that Kalka Shimla Mail track. Okay, so here the narrator is saying that this person is appearing as a short in height having a black beard, okay, and when I just go and stand in front of them, I saw that the area where he was standing, means both the walls, okay, both the walls were appearing dark in color, like they are just giving you a horror look. Okay, here sunlights are almost, you can see there's no sunlight. Okay, and that it had a early deadly smell, and so much cold wind rushed through it that it struck chill to me as if I had left the natural world. Okay, and the narrator is saying this whole area is appearing as I left my world. Okay, because the smell are so deadly. Okay, even I'm not able to breathe properly. Before he stirred, I was near enough to him to have touched him. Okay, and now I'm standing just in front of him. Not even then, removing his eyes from mine, he stepped back one step and lifted his hand. This was a lonesome post to occupy, I said, and it had riveted my attention when I looked down from up yonder. A visitor was a rarity, I should suppose not an unwelcome rarity. Rarity means rare case. I hoped. In me, he merely saw a man who had been shut up within narrow limits all his life and who, being at last set free, had a newly awakened interest in this great work. Okay, to such purpose I spoke to him, but I am from sure of the terms I used. For beside that I am not happy in opening any conversation, there was something in the man that daunted me. He directed a most curious look towards the red light near the tunnel mouth and looked all about it as if something were missing from it, and then looked at me. Okay, so in short we can say that narrator is describing a horrific description about that signal man. Okay, so the narrator is saying, see, that person is not very happy to meet with me. Okay, he was not very much happy, he was not very much pleased. Okay, even he directed, okay, he even instructed me in a very curious manner, means he was not taking so much interest in talking with me. Here I am, okay, here I'm interested in talking with him, not he. Okay, that light was part of his change, that light was part of his charge, was it not? Okay, so I hope you all know the cabin area of railway stations. Okay, you all know the cabin area of railway stations. Okay, so this signal man was the in charge of that signal area. Okay, so the narrator of the story was continuously thinking the place where I'm standing, this whole area comes under his in charge, means he was the in charge of this area. He answered in a low voice, don't you know it is? Okay, so immediately the narrator of the story asked, can you please tell me, are you in charge of this area? In a very low tone. Low tone means low, in a very low tone, he immediately said, do you know? Yes, it comes under my it comes under my charge. The monstrous thought came into my mind as I persuaded the fixed eyes and the saturnine face that this was a spirit, not a man. See, the narrator of the story was really scared. Okay, immediately horrified thought came in his mind. Immediately he thought, the person whom I was talking, he is not a human being. He's a spirit. A spirit is standing in front of me. Okay. I have speculated since whether there may have been an infection in his mind. In my turn, I stepped back, but in making the action, I detected in his eyes some latent fear of me. This put the monstrous thought to flight. Okay. So when the narrator of the story was thinking that I'm talking with a spirit, okay, immediately he saw a movement in the pupils of his eyes, okay, and immediately he stopped. Okay, immediately he stopped the flight of his thinking. He thought, no, 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 he's not a spirit. I'm talking with a living human being. Okay, you look at me, I said, forcing a smile as if you had a dared of me. I was doubtful, he returned, whether I had seen you before. Okay, now both of them started now both of them started having a conversation between them. Okay, first of all, the narrator of the story started a conversation. He said, you are looking in my direction. Okay, and the narrator of the story forced a smile on his face. Okay, and he said, oh, I think you are looking in my direction. So that person said, no, 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 I was a doubtful, I'm having a doubt. Okay, I think I have seen you before. I have seen you before. Now the narrator of the story asked, where have you seen me? He pointed to the red light he had looked at. There. Okay. Immediately that man pointed in the direction of the red light. He said, there, at there I have seen you. Intently watchful to me, he replied, but without sound. Yes. Okay. Immediately that person said, yes, you are absolutely right. You have saw me in that area. My good fellow, what should I do there? However be that as it may, I never was there. You may swear. I think I may. He rejoined, yes, I'm sure I may. Okay. Now the narrator of the story said, oh my dear good fellow, are you sure you have seen me in that area? So immediately that person said, yes, I'm 100% sure I have saw you earlier at this place. Okay, my dear student. So this is all for our today's session. Okay. So the next part of the chapter we are going to see in our next video. Okay, till then, my dear students, what you have to do, just try to revise the things which I have already told you. Okay, now I'm taking leave and going to meet with you all in our next class with a new chapter, with this chapter. Okay, sorry, not a new chapter, with this chapter again. Okay, so you have to take very good care of yourself. Bye.